Welcome to the Help Myself podcast. I am your host, John M. Singletary Sr. Hey, I got to put that senior in there because I got a junior. And tonight is the first time that he is actually going to be in on the Help Myself podcast remix. He's been back here giggling and cutting up and carrying on. But tonight I'm super excited. We've got a guest tonight that I have been wanting to bring on the show for a long time. Let me not say I've been trying to get her on the show, because as soon as I put the invite out, she was so gracious and she accepted quickly, and gave me some tips and homework and stuff I needed to do better. So she's not a game. But I'm just really excited about tonight's interview. I'll get into some of the specifics after we bring her on, but lots of reasons her story vibes with my own personal story, and the work that she's doing, while it's not specific to me, it resonates with me. And so I'm motivated, I'm inspired, I'm excited, and I'm delighted to have tonight's guest, and that is Bernadette Jackson. She is the CEO, lead strategist at the H.E.R Consulting Group. And so what she does is she creates resources for fatherless daughters to learn how to process father wounds, which that right there resonates with me. And that's so that they can begin to authentically experience the amazing relationships that they deserve. She's also the host and the creator of the Healing Elevates Relationships. That's the H.E.R right there, y'all, podcast, where they're redefining how the world views women with daddy issues. So before I keep going on and fumbling through this introduction, let me bring on our special guest tonight, none other than Bernadette Jackson.
Hey, John.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, I'm super excited. Like, I was about to get too much into the interview while I was doing the intro, so it's like, so I'm excited. I'm like, hey, let's hit it. But before we really get moving, I did my little interview or my little introduction of you.
Mhm.
How about you introduce yourself to the folks?
Okay, I will do that. So, John is correct. I am the CEO and lead strategist at Her Consulting Group. And the reason why I started this company is because when I was going through my own healing journey with my father's absence, I was looking for resources. And I couldn't find anything but one book. One single book on fatherless daughters. And I tell you what, that book became my Bible for like 3 years. And the entire time that I was really just trying to understand, how did my father loss affect me? What was going on with me? Why was I doing some of the things that I was doing?
Right.
I needed support services that would help me on my journey, and I couldn't find anything. And so, as a result of the deep dive that I did into really just healing myself and understanding what was the ins and outs of how fatherlessness affects women in general, I decided that, you know what? I can't not have these resources available to me. So I'm just going to start to create some things that I need. And honestly, it was a fumble. I'm gonna say that, like, I had a couple of mishaps here and there. I took some steps back. I did all these things, but you know what? The mistakes that I made and the journey that I took really just led me to creating the resources that I now have available for fatherless daughters. So this work is super important to me. I really, really love what I do. And honestly, I just want to make sure that every fatherless daughter knows that she deserves amazing relationships. And everything that I do points to that. Because too often we feel like we don't deserve it because our father wasn't there, and a lot of times we internalize that absence as being our fault. And so we show up as feeling like we have to actually prove our worth in relationships, and none of that is true. So I'm hoping that my platform, that my message, that everything that I do points to the truth that you deserve amazing relationships. And I just need you to know that, like, off the top. so that you go into relationships and you present yourself as being a worthy woman. And so that's it. Like, that's what I do in a nutshell. My podcast, my platform, everything points towards that, and just making sure that fatherless daughters have the resources that they need.
She said off the rip. She said
Okay.
that's it in a nutshell. That
That's
is
it.
amazing work. And I tell you what, the reason why it resonates, it's amazing how when you go on a journey of healing, um, you start to attract the tribe that you need on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that father wound is a huge part of my journey, and really intensively in the last 2 years, and especially the last year. Like, so through therapy, I was able to identify that there was pain there because of situations in my life. And I had become aware, like, hey, man, my father, like I'm a father. And it was like he decided that, this wasn't for him. Now, obviously, in maturity, he had things going on in his life, but there's no getting away from the fact that he was absent. And there's no way to change how that was and how it was impacting me. And then in this last year, doing the work and understanding the power of a father wound and what it
Mm-hmm.
does. So when I heard you talking about that, I said, I know this is for women, but I'm getting something from this too. Like, she helping me. So I was just super excited. But here's the other part, the jokes I was making. So the first time that I saw you was on my brother Rick Gunner Jr.'s show. So that was the first time, and I was really impressed. I was like, "Whoa!" Like, she just came on, their presence, the way you spoke was powerful, and all of that. And then, just watching and how our community and our village collaborates. And then you
Mm-hmm.
came on to Relationship Gumbo podcast with Derek Jones, and then Erica Warren was on there with you that night. And they were talking, and you came in, and me and my son were riding around. I was listening to it in the truck while we were riding around, and man, you just came on there, blew me away. I was like, what? And just the whole time I was like, I have to get her on the Help Myself podcast. We need to hear her story. We need to hear all about her. People need to know how to get in touch with you. They need to know that I am well aware that the first thing that I put up on the screen had your name wrong, but I fixed it. So I don't want y'all to think I missed that. I saw that, and I know y'all saw it. But hey, you know what? Look, we doing what we doing. But I'm delighted to have you here tonight. And I think the way you expounded, you started to get into the questions, but we're gonna go with it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go with it anyway. So you told the story, but I'm gonna put the question up there anyway.
Mm.
So since you told us exactly what got you into this specific brand of consulting, can you take us a little bit more on the journey of the H.E.R consulting group specifically, and the podcast, and what took you down that journey?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I gave you a little taste of my story. But honestly, there was a lot more to it that I discovered along the way. And so one of the things that really got me was the fact that I was attracted to unavailable men. And I didn't even understand what
Amen.
emotional unavailability was until I started going on this healing journey. I honestly just thought that, okay, these guys are just, they just need a little bit of, they need a little push, or they need to be convinced, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until I understood that my father was emotionally unavailable, and that is all I understood about men. And that's all that I was experiencing where men were concerned, that was the reason why I was attracting that, because that was what was normal for me.
Right.
And I don't want to, I really want to be clear that what was normal is not the same thing as what I deserved. You understand? Like, the
Mhm.
two are not one and the same. Absolutely, this is what was normal. It's what I was used to, but it's not what I deserved. And I didn't understand the difference until to go on my healing journey. So fast forward to your question about, like really what inspired her consulting group was that I started to journal my journey. And I started to get really, really critical and introspective about what I was doing, where I was going, what the results were, and what some of the mistakes I was making were, and just like chronicling everything. And I'm telling you right now, it was almost as if I was a mad scientist for like 3 years. I call that my time when I was in the lab, because I was making hypotheses, I was analyzing data, I was putting things under the microscope. I was really doing the work. I was doing the inner work. I was really on the journey, and I was in it. I was like knee deep in it. And I really, really wanted to get to the bottom of like what was going on. And the reason why I was so radical in how I was just like taking seriously my healing journey was because I had a coming to Jesus moment, like shortly after I had broken up with the man I thought that I was going to marry. And the Lord revealed to me that you're the common denominator in all of your failed relationships. And if
Mm.
you do not change how you are operating, the quality of your relationships are not going to change. And that revelation was like a punch in the stomach to me, because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm doing all the things. I am trying to make sure that I'm the perfect girlfriend. I am, anything they ask, I'm doing it. Like all these things. And I'm just like, why am I being penalized with trash relationships and unavailable men? Like, what's up, Lord? You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Right.
what is this really? And so honestly, like, once I had that revelation and I had to sit with it for a little while, I realized that, okay, obviously, this was a hard truth that I had to accept. And when I understood that it was me, that I needed to take the onus for what belonged to me. And what belonged to me was how I was going to show up in relationships, what I was going to accept, and how I was going to handle my healing from my father's absence. And so I had to start really just coming to terms with some very hard truths. And one of them was that my father's absence happened to me, but it wasn't because of me. And as soon as I was able to release that, like realize that it's not me. Yes, it happened to me, but it's not because of me. I was able to really start to see my worth. I was able to understand what I needed to do, what changes I needed to make. And I was able then to start attracting the kind of relationships that I had always yearned for. And so when I figured out what that cheat code was, and I'm telling you, it took me 3 years to figure out some things. And I'm still on that journey. I'm still tweaking things. I'm still understanding. But once I got that initial, formula, I wrote it all down. And I wrote it down just for my own personal use, because honestly, like I feel like this may be the first time I've ever said this out loud to anybody, but I have dyslexia. And so there are certain things that I need to do in order to be able to process information and like have it like stick in my brain in a way that I can grasp it and understand. And so being able to have like a formula for things or a method or a roadmap or whatever you want to call it is the way that I need to learn. Like I need to visually be able to see, okay, like where I'm gonna go, what steps am I gonna take and all of that. Like that's me. And so I actually laid out everything that I was doing, what the results were, all of that stuff, so that I would know exactly what I needed to do if I got into this situation again. Because these things that I was learning were all new to me. It was all new relationship skills, all new soft skills, just a new way of thinking about myself and others and how I related to people. And because it was new, it wasn't yet ingrained in terms of me being able to have this be like behavior that just happened without me having to think about it. So I needed my notes, I needed my reference guides and all the things. And that is really what ended up being my first program. And that's the same thing, the same roadmap that I took is what I would take my one-on-one clients through in order to bring them the same healing that I had. And it's what I was able to then craft into my program, my self-paced program for people to be able to take on their own. Because honestly, this road is not easy. And when you have been living one way for so long, you have to be super intentional every single day when you are trying to now be a habit, some new things that you're learning. You know, like it takes intentionality, it takes tools, and it also takes community. And I feel like we forget about the community part, that healing is not something that happens in isolation. We actually need to have other people with us on a journey that both understand what we're going through and empathize with us and offer the support that we need to help to push us along when we don't even want to go anymore. So that, in a nutshell, is how her consulting group came about. It is how her Healing Elevates Relationships podcast came about. It's how Access Authenticity Journal was created, and all these other things that I'm working on. That is really it.
There you go. And that's it. Listen. Oh, so many response points. I'm like, what? First off, I'm dyslexic also.
Mm.
And yeah, the level to which things have to be done in a way to make it work for me.
Yeah.
It could be just as easy as it is, but it's just yeah. So
You
I'm
get
bothering
it.
from that, and then when you talked about that, just deserving better and not understanding it and being like, hey, I think sometimes with that father wound, it makes us think that we can just love the other person into submission. We
Yes.
can work them to, we can work them down. Like,
Yeah.
why don't they love me the way I'm supposed to? I'm this, I'm that.
Hmm.
Back to
And you
your
know what? Another thing that I realized that we do is that we take their apprehension as a challenge to do more. And it's like, that's not what that's supposed to mean.
I'm
It's
gonna need
not.
you to stop reading me, okay? Stop reading me. This is for women with father wounds. You should have been just all in my business. You don't know my life. You don't know how much milk I like in my cereal.
Listen, okay, I'm just speaking the truth.
Oh man, it's so deep. It's so deep. But listen, I'm glad you went the scientist route because this is a important work and community, all of that. Listen, man, got me all expired, man. I'm feeling the things. I'm feeling so. But this is a show where I want to spotlight what you're bringing to the table. So, what are some of your biggest inspirations and influences to why you do?
Honestly, I would say my biggest inspiration to continue this work is receiving messages from women all over the world who have listened to the podcast, who have purchased the course, who have saw a reel or some information I put up on IG, and they now understand exactly what's going on with them. I've gotten so many messages from women who were like, that podcast episode that you did on projection, or that podcast episode that you did on entanglements, or, I saw you on such and such podcast and you were talking about unavailable men. And I'm like, I didn't even realize that that's what was going on. That's the stuff that inspires me. That really inspires me to keep going because honestly, sometimes you don't even realize that what's happening is really affecting people. My platform is relatively small in comparison to some of the other people out there who are doing healing work as well. And so sometimes, even though I'm trugging along and whatnot, I don't always know that people are listening or the right people are hearing my message. And so when I get DMs like that or emails and things of that nature from women who are telling me that, wow, this is really helpful. Like you really pinpointed exactly what I was feeling in XYZ. That keeps me going. It just helps me to know that I'm on the right track, that, the work that I'm doing is worth it, it's impactful, and it keeps me grounded, honestly, because at the end of the day, I really do want every fatherless daughter I come in contact with to understand that she deserves amazing relationships, and literally anything that I can do to advance that is what I'm willing to do in my platform. And so when I hear that women are starting to believe that about themselves, and that something that I said has inspired them to do some work that they need to do, or start their healing journey, or whatever it is, it makes it completely worth it for me.
So I know you don't think that I'm just gonna let you just go right by projection. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about that. Like, you're not gonna
We
just
can talk about it.
projection. I was like, what?
We can talk about it. So, I was listening to a sermon, and the preacher man was talking about, projection. And I was like, oh, what is this? So I started to do a little bit of research. And projection is the it's the thoughts, it's the limiting beliefs and the thoughts that we have that kind of um they almost make it so that we don't do the things that we know that we're supposed to do before we do them. So I'll give you an example. Um, let's say that you have an interview coming up, and you start to think about all of the ways in which you're not ready for this interview. I don't have the outfit that I want to wear. I Something happened to my laptop and now I have to use my phone, I'm not in the location that I want to be in, so I'm just going to cancel this interview. Mind you, you understand that this is the only time that you're going to be able to do this interview. It's very important in all of that. So all of those thoughts, all of those negative thoughts that you had before you did the thing, kept you from doing something that was going to be a major opportunity for you. And so that is where projection comes in. And a lot of it happens because we don't feel that we are worthy of great opportunities. We don't think that we deserve good things happening to us. And we feel like when we walk into a room, people can see our flaws and they can see all of our mistakes instead of seeing who we are as a person. And so we start to then tell ourselves that our flaws and our mistakes are so big that we don't deserve the things that are happening to us. And as a result of that, we end up pre rejecting ourselves, or we just operate in projection all the time. So it is really, really powerful to understand that our thoughts are going to affect our behavior, and our behavior really dictates the trajectory of our life. And if we don't get our thoughts under control, especially the ones that keep us like small, that keep us from taking the steps in the direction of the things that we really want, even though they scare us, all of those things, if we continue to allow ourselves to stop us from doing the things that we need to do, we're never going to grow. We will not be stretched, and we're not going to experience what we yearn for. And that really is, like the point of doing anything. Like, so many of us have like some deep desires, and we will not walk in the direction of what those things are because we feel like we don't deserve them. We feel like we'll be rejected. We feel like we may be abandoned along the way, and some other things as well. And so they just keep us stagnant, or they keep us like, standing on this one block, or across the street, like just like trying to peek at the thing we want to do, but won't actually take the steps towards it. So that in a nutshell is what projection is.
Man, listen, it's not that I don't care about all of you that are watching and listening, but this was for me tonight. Listen, if you ain't getting it, I ain't worried about nothing, because this was for me. In the professional recruiting game, we call projection, we call it self-disqualifying.
Mm.
And it's just like you talk about, like in relationships, you see somebody that you find interesting, attracting, charismatic, whatever it is, and you say to yourself, I couldn't have someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at your opportunities. Like, I imagine how catastrophic it would be if you looked at yourself and said, I am not the worthy vessel to bring her consulting group into existence when
Mhm.
you are the person to do it. And
Mhm.
so, man, that was we off script, but I couldn't let you just zip on by
No,
projection.
let's go wherever you need to go. Okay, I'm here for it.
That's what I'm talking about. And you know what though? That's what we talking about years ago on the Jamie Foxx show. Jamie Foxx coined a term, blow up tuation. So that's what we doing on our platforms with our
Mhm.
community. We are going to call blow up tuation onto your life and onto your platforms because it's needed, it's powerful, it's all of that. So the blow
Mhm.
up tuation is upon you, bro.
All right, I receive it. I receive it.
All right. So what's your resilience story? I mean,
Ooh,
pick one.
child. Do we have the time? No, let me
We got
stop.
time. We got time. We got time.
My resilience story. I would have to say that it was understanding what my worth was finally. I feel like that really is the genesis of my resilience story. It took me 33 years to finally understand that just because my father wasn't there did not mean that I didn't have any worth or value. Just because he wasn't there didn't mean that I had to prove my worth to the people that I was in relationships with. Just because he wasn't there, it did not mean that I had to never say no to things, that I had to not have any boundaries, that I had to create an atmosphere of being all the things to everybody in an effort to make sure that nobody left, even people who didn't need to be in my life, even people who I knew weren't going to last. Still, I was trying to create an atmosphere where they would need me so deeply that they wouldn't leave, that I would have control over when the relationship ended. I was very big on that. And so it took so long for me to understand that my worth and my value were there simply because I drew breath. You know, like the Lord already gave it to me. It wasn't something that I needed to earn. And once I finally understood that, I was able to start to see myself differently, as well as to show up differently in relationships and attract different communities. And so it really has been a journey of self-discovery for me. It has been a journey of self-love as well. I feel like, okay, so I turned 40 a couple weeks ago, and I feel like I'm almost just now getting into being able to look at myself and say like, wow, like I really do love the woman that I'm becoming. And I really can see everything that I am accomplishing and the work that I'm doing and just what I'm trying to do, even behind the scenes, just for myself personally, and be able to say, like, I see the effort. I see what you're doing. I'm really proud of the work that you're doing and keep going. I was never able to say these things about myself. I would do things and they would be really great things and I would never stop and congratulate myself or even acknowledge what I was doing. It would just be like, okay, it's on to the next thing. And the next thing and the next thing because I was always trying to prove my worth. And it wouldn't matter like how big of an accomplishment I had. I simply would be like, okay, I've done it. Good. Let me move on to the next thing. What's the next benchmark? What's the next thing over there? And I just kept doing that over and over again, never stopping to celebrate myself, never stopping to acknowledge the work that I was doing, any of that. And so I honestly I phrase this a little bit differently, not so much my resiliency story, but really the my personal perseverance plan. And so I had to create a personal perseverance plan for myself so that I would continue to move in the direction of the woman of my own dreams. And that has been like a personal goal of mine, that there are certain things that I wanted to create. There are certain benchmarks that I want to reach. And these are just personal goals for myself that once I do these things, I can say that I am the woman of my own dreams. And so I had to create something that was going to help me to continue to take steps, even when I was tired, even when I felt like I didn't deserve this at this time, or, things were coming up that were kind of getting in the way or whatever it is. My personal perseverance plan has helped me to really just continue to walk out this journey. And it really has helped me to do all of the things that I'm doing now and just kind of keep me on the road that I'm currently on. Because quite as it's kept, like people who are on a healing journey, the fact that you have been your unhealed self longer than you've been your healed self, it is very, very easy for you to slide right back on in to that lifestyle you had before because you know it. Not only do you know it, but you understand what's going to come out of the things that you're doing. And you have already been comfortable where you were for so long that if the wrong things happen, you will find yourself right on back in that situation, perfectly content in staying there because you understand the environment, you have lived in that environment, and you have likely thrived in that environment for way longer than you have in your healed and whole environment. And so it is super easy for you to just like go right back there. And so you have to have something in place to keep you on your growth trajectory. And that is what I have been able to really do for myself. And I have to say that I'm super proud of it, honestly.
Listen, I'm super proud because you. I think that's the part where we don't give ourselves enough grace, and we
Yeah.
don't give ourselves, because we were unhealed, we were wounded. Like I did a a guided meditation, and so what they guided me to do was go down into the depths of my heart and find my unauthentic self,
Mm.
because the realization was is that person was created because it saw trauma and it was protecting me from that trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
even though it didn't release me to be my authentic self, it was protecting me because it saw the hurt. And so the goal for me was to go and to thank that version of me that only loved me so much that it was created to protect me from it, the
Mm-hmm.
pain it saw me going through, and then to release it so I can go into my authentic self. And we've got to remember, like all of this stuff, we were unhealed, but it was because of the atmosphere that we grew up in, and we had to
Yeah.
seek this healing. And so, some grace, some patience with ourselves. I got to be real patient because, I told the story. I was like, whenever I do furniture and stuff, like I just want to get it all at once. I don't want to pick up no little pieces or nothing. Can I just have that whole thing and just put it in my living room right now? So
Mm-hmm.
that's not how healing, that's not how life works.
It's not. It's not. But I mean, I'm glad that you said that though, because I really feel like so many of us, I feel like fatherless daughters have this we have this fixation on instant gratification. And we feel like healing is supposed to look like that too. Like, well, why I don't feel healed yet? Like I've been on this journey for like 3 days. What's going on? Like where is my new guy? Where's my new life? What's happening? And it's like it's so funny that it's like it's daily. This is going to be something that you'll be doing for the rest of your life because like when you get to a certain point you realize that oh wow, like this unlocked some new things that I need to examine, and now I got to go and do some more stuff in here and figure out what's going on. It's like, it's a journey. It's
Do
a
you
journey.
do you know how upset I was when one of my coaches told me shadow work begets more shadow work. I was like, wait,
What?
what?
Seriously. Seriously. It's like this is the thing. When you start to do your healing work, when you really start to get into it, it creates new pathways in your mind because previously you likely ignored a lot of the things and you had all these coping and defense mechanisms that really hid a lot of what was happening from you. And you spoke a little bit about it when you were talking about the mask that we often wear, just to protect ourselves. I call it your palatable persona, because it's like, you know what, like you really want to be liked by people, you want to belong, and so you are going to do whatever is necessary in order to like belong to a community. And a lot of us who have had um issues with abandonment and rejection, we understand what needs to be done in order to be liked, to be accepted, and to belong in places, and we have no problem morphing into whoever we need to morph into in order to fit in where we get in. Like, we don't have no problem with that. But here's the thing, when we decide that we're going to start to heal now and we're going to take off that palatable persona and we're now going to step into our authenticity, not only is it scary, because we understand that when we do that, we are going to lose people, we are definitely going to risk rejection and all of these things. It becomes crystal clear that there is so much about ourselves that not only did we not know, but that is now just bubbling up to the surface. And so once our mind understands, like, okay, she is now accepting new information about herself, guess what happens? The floodgates open. And now things start coming up to the surface. You start remembering things that you forgot for years. You start to, like have feelings about things that you once thought that you were okay with. You start having, like visions of situations long past, and start to remember conversations with people and start to see patterns of behavior from other people and all of these things. And they really start to just like open you up to be able to see who is in your life now, and what do these people mean to you, how have they been operating, and all of these things start to come up to the surface. And it's like, wow, like I really didn't know all of this was happening around me, because I was just used to doing whatever I needed to do to survive. And when you are just trying to survive, you don't have the luxury of taking a closer look at what's going on around you. You're looking for the easiest step that you can take to get you to where you got to go. And it is really linear. It is a A and B. I don't have time for this kind of tree formation. I don't have time for any of that. I need a 1-2 step situation because I need to get where I'm going immediately. And so it's like, like once you're opened up to that, so much more comes up. But the work is worthy. It really is, because you become connected to people that you're aligned with, You start to have aligned relationships. You start to really become introduced to people and attracted to people who are supposed to be there and who show up the same way you do. People you can count on, who you feel safe with, who you understand are going to support you in the way that you need to be supported on your journey, and who you really feel seen by. Because the one thing that really comes out of you showing up as your most authentic self is that the deepest desire that you have, which is to be loved for exactly who you are, can now begin to happen. Why? Because people are seeing who you really are finally. Like, you took off that palatable persona and decided to show up as you really were, as who you actually are. And now, finally, people can start to love you for you. And you can start to understand that, okay, the people who are in my life now are actually here for the right reasons. So now I can relax into this relationship. I don't have this anxiety that something is going to go wrong, or they're going to abandon me, or they're going to reject me, or any of that. Why? Because I've shown up authentically and they have accepted it already. So there is safety in knowing that people love me for exactly who I am. And that is the blessing in aligned relationships and doing the inner work and showing up as your most authentic self, and just being brave enough to know that the people who leave are not meant to stay. And that's okay, because they leave room open for the people who are supposed to be in your life. I am such a fan now that I have gone through healing of gentle goodbyes. Like, I enjoyed the time that we spent together. I understand that this is where our journey stops. I wish you well. And, I am open for the people who belong in my life.
You
And
developed that spiritual gift of
yes,
goodbye.
okay, like, okay, I'm okay. This is where the journey ends, and I'm fine with that. I wish you well.
I would say preach, but she's teaching, she's breaking it down, all of that. Listen. Wow. Wow. I'm just gonna soak that in and then go to the next question. But so what are some resources that you would suggest for anyone that is interested in doing what you do or getting into your field of expertise? And I know this is a big plug right here.
So there are a few things that I typically tell people when they come to me and they want resources for how they can start to take their own journey to healing as a fatherless daughter. And the first few things are obviously going to be my resources, but there are other things as well that I think are vitally important. So
But we want to
um,
talk about your resources, of course.
yeah, definitely. So for my resources, it's absolutely the Healing Elevates Relationships podcast, because that podcast, honestly, free game. Okay? Free game. We're talking about a lot of things, and everything that I speak about there is geared specifically towards fatherless daughters. People in general can benefit from it, but it's for you. It's for us. And so I would definitely say that. I would also say my one-on-one services. Not only do I have services that will help you on your healing journey, but I also have strategy services as well for fatherless daughters who are in business, because that is another layer to things as well. And I have a lot of free resources. I have a free workshop called the Relationship Autopsy, and it helps you to understand the patterns that you have created in relationships and why some things are happening the way that they do, so that you can start to really change the trajectory of what your relationships looks like by being aware of what you're attracting and why. So I have that as a free resource. I also have my self-paced program called Her Way Relationship Intensive, and it is a 10 module course, and it just takes you through step by step on first understanding what fatherlessness is, and really taking a deeper look at how it has affected you. And then it also gives you relationship tools so that you can start to attract and maintain the relationships you want. It's not enough for you to start to attract it, but if you don't have the tools to maintain it, the relationships that you start having, you're not going to be able to keep them. And so we want there to be both. And so that program really helps you to do that. If you really wanted to understand a deeper look at relationships, a book that I would recommend is Relational Intelligence by Darius Daniels. That book is awesome. It teaches you the 4 types of relationships that are out there. And the reason why I really love this book is because it highlights that sometimes the type of relationship that you think you have with a person is not the correct assignment. And so when we are able to label relationships for what they really are and we put them in their place, we're not heartbroken when things go left. or when the relationship doesn't end up happening the way we thought that it did. So that's definitely a book that I would recommend for anyone who is interested in just understanding relationships a little bit deeply, but especially fatherless daughters, because for us, we really want that every relationship that we want it to be a deep relationship. We want to feel all the feels. We want to be surrounded. We want to be supported and all of that. And sometimes the person who's coming in your life is an assignment, meaning that you're supposed to help them do something and they're supposed to go on their way. This person is not supposed to be your partner. They are not supposed to be your business partner. They're not supposed to be your husband. None of that. You were supposed to teach them something, or you were supposed to do something for them and send them off. And so when we understand some of these things, it really does put a lot in perspective for us. So that's what I would say.
Ooh, child. Wow. Man, listen. I'm gonna go get some of that stuff, yeah, because the relationship book, I want to check that
Mhm.
out because that assignment thing, that's big. That's big because you're
Yeah.
taking on assignments that ain't yours,
Mm.
or at least I am.
Telling you. No, me look, you saw that I said, because I'm telling you now, like that hit me. It's true. It's like
Mhm.
we have the spirit of just wanting to help everybody. And
Right.
we don't want anyone to ever feel abandoned by us. Why? Because we understand what
What
that
it
feels
feels
like.
like.
You
Yes.
know, like it's so deeply ingrained in us that it makes us want to just like, oh, she said that, she has XYZ problem. How can I help her? How can I do this? And it's like you're sitting up here just playing white knight to every single person that comes into your life when that is not what you were supposed to be doing there. That's not at all what this was supposed to look like. And so honestly, it's a blessing and a curse because when we do this for the right people and the relationship is reciprocal, okay, like keyword reciprocal, then we feel like wow, like this is an amazing relationship.
It's
You
magic.
know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you feel like this is exactly what I wanted. But when it's not reciprocal and when we are operating outside of what we're supposed to be operating in, our gracious heart, our good heart, just doing what we do from the heart, like we end up being hurt or disappointed when things don't go our way, or when something falls off, or the person leaves as soon as we do something for them, like all of these things. And it's because we did not label people correctly. So, yeah.
There it is. That wrong assignment, it'll mess you up every time.
Listen.
Before we let you go, what's a quick take, motto, or mantra that you live by and would advise others that are watching or listening to live by?
So, the thing that I tell myself all the time is that I deserve amazing relationships, and nothing I've done or experience I have disqualifies me from that. And I affirm this with myself often. I affirm it with my clients, and I say it on my channel every single day because a lot of us feel like the things that we have gone through or the things that we have done is making us damaged goods, is diminishing our worth and our value, and it makes it so that we are now not worthy of good things, and that is not true. And I really, really need to affirm that in myself and with others, because not understanding that really starts to lend itself to the people pleasing or the overextending yourself in relationships, or just doing whatever it is that another person is asking us without boundaries, or without any care or concern for our own needs and desires. And these are all things that fatherless daughters have in common. Like those are just traits across the board that they suffer with. And so understanding this truth and just like speaking this mantra over yourself helps you to know that you are worthy, and that your experiences are helping you to be better, and that you can start to now get away from the I should have known better and start to really focus on what can I learn here. And if we just tilt it just a little bit to what can I learn from this instead of I should have known better, we will start to be able to give ourselves the grace that we need to really sit down and figure out, okay, what is the lesson in this? And how can I now apply this to what it is that I'm doing going forward so that I don't make this mistake again? And so that I still understand that regardless of the fact that I did make the mistake, that I can still keep my head up, that I can still walk tall and still walk into rooms understanding that I am a worthy woman. So that's it.
We need to affirm that. You need to say that as often as possible. You are worthy and deserving
Mm,
of exceptional, amazing, mind blowing, healthy, loving, anointed relationships.
yes.
It's a right, it's not a
Ooh,
privilege.
yes.
Absolutely. Now I'm gonna go with parting thoughts, but I think y'all can kind of hear her accent. But tell the people where you from.
I'm from New York,
What part? Brooklyn
Brooklyn.
in the house. Hey, that's right. Brooklyn in the house.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Before we go, you got any parting thoughts for us? We want to make sure we're going to point everybody to all of your resources, your socials, how to get in touch with you, all that. We're going to make sure that we put that out there. But you got any parting thoughts for us?
Yes, actually, I do. So, the one thing that I want everyone to with is that the quality of your core emotions really does set the tone for your day and for how you end up doing things. And so I want everyone to really examine the quality of their core emotions. And this is something that I have had to do myself. And once I was able to understand that I was really complacent and sad and feeling like I wasn't deserving and all of that, everything that was happening around me pointed to that. And so it's such a magnetizing feeling when you start to change exactly what your thoughts are and you start to take command of how you're feeling about things and how you look at things. Because once you start to do that, your brain automatically wants to make correct anything that you have decided that you're going to do, or anything, any thought that you have put in your mind. So if we start to examine what our core emotions are and understanding what is the quality, is it tilting more negative than it is positive? Then we have to understand that this is why a lot of what we're going through tilts more negative or positive. And if you want to have more positivity, if you want to have more grace and more gratitude, your thoughts have to actually tilt towards that. And you have to be intentional about examining what your core emotions are, as well as the thoughts that are coming as a result of those emotions. Because once you start to do that, you will realize that your brain is going to start to show you all of these examples of exactly what you've been thinking most of the time. And if it is that you deserve amazing relationships, I guarantee you that's what you're going to start attracting. If it is that, you're worthy and that you can do this and that you have what it takes to accomplish the goal that you set for yourself, or whatever it is, your brain is going to give you example after example of exactly what you just affirmed. So examine your core emotions and make sure that if you want them to tilt more positive, that you have to be intentional about thinking positively.
That's it right there. Y'all hear the DJ back there jamming.
Mhm.
But that's it. Man, examine your core emotions. Like at a base level, I understand that and I know it, but it's like to hear you say it, it's like, man, I need to hear that. So
Mhm.
wow. No, listen. We want to thank. Hey, you didn't tell the people where they can find you.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Bernadette N. Jackson. And everything that I spoke about in terms of my one-on-one coaching, my free resource, relationship autopsy, my journal, access authenticity, all of the things are linked in the bio there. So it's up on the screen now, Bernadette N. Jackson. Follow me. You can definitely hit me up in the DMs. I love having conversations with you. You can ask me questions, all of that. My podcast information is there. Everything is there. And that's where I show up a lot. Like you'll get a lot of information that's geared towards fatherless daughters. And so connect with me.
Please connect because she's dope. She's dope.
Thank you.
Trust me. She be dropping these meditations and pieces from her part. Man, listen. Favorite part of the day. She be up early with it too. So you ain't got to wait till 10. It be on there when you get up. So Bernadette, again, I really want to thank you for well, I'm gonna tell this story real quick and then we'll let you go. But y'all know Bernadette done been on me about this Monday morning mind hack workbook that I need to write and developing it into a course in a speaking series. So I'm gonna say that publicly. It's coming early summer, so
yes,
be on the lookout. We're working on it now, and that was the kick in the behind that I needed.
Good, because now it's locked. Early summer, I'm gonna be looking for it.
And then LJ agreed with you too. That's terrible.
Clearly,
you
need to get on it. You need to get on it.
Well, again, thank you so much. We are gonna definitely have you back soon, but. Man, this is an amazing interview. I'm gonna go back and watch it a couple of times and take some notes because I need to implement that stuff. So
thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. It was an honor to be here. I loved the conversation, and I really love your platform. Your Monday morning mind hacks get me together every single Monday. So I love that we were able to collaborate like this, and I am sure that we will be able to do this again, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. You better hurry up and know it. Well, hey, my co-pilot is back there talking, and I'm gonna close out like we always close out. Listen, I can't help myself. I've got to inspire, I've got to encourage, I've got to empower, but I can help myself by being the absolute best version of myself. You can too. So why not we do it together? We are out.